What's going on, everybody? It's Jewfy here, and today we have a clip from Young America Foundation. Trans person shows up to Matt Walsh event. Watch what happens. I haven't seen this, so this will be a pure reaction from me and you guys if you haven't seen it. So before I start the clip, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and now let's get into this.
You have said on gender identity, gender expression, John Money, pronoun usage, what else? The sex gender distinction. You are 100% correct.
Wow.
You are 100% correct. I don't know if you've ever heard that from a trans person before.
Okay, I did not expect that. I did not expect that.
So I'd like to say that I'm actually a part of that organization that was going to come and try and derail you tonight. I didn't hear a single thing, though, that constituted an attack on queer or trans lives or an attack on me personally. So I don't know what they were on about there. Moreover, everything that you have said on gender identity, gender expression, John Money, pronoun usage, what else? The sex gender distinction, you are 100% correct.
Wow.
You are 100% correct. I don't know if you've ever heard that.
Yo, shout out to this guy. Seriously, shout out to this guy for having the courage to, be a black sheep and stand out amongst the crowd and be honest. It's probably people just like him that think this stuff, but they don't want to come and say it because, you're going to be bashed by the trans community or whatever if you come out and say this stuff. But if you think it's true, man. Just let it be known. Don't bottle it up. If it's what you really believe, say it. But to come and say it right here, though, like where his camera's rolling and people gonna come to him and be like, yo, what is this? But who cares? Oh, wait, never mind. Let's just keep the video rolling.
From a trans person before, I identify as a trans woman. You are 100% correct on there. And it is an absolute travesty that the trans community bases everything on such vacuous concepts. My thing is, though, is I don't agree with your conclusion. I don't agree with it. But more so, the reason why I don't is less a matter of argumentation and more so a matter of method. You've stated time and time again that your approach to this is to try and keep things simple and uncomplicated, as in you don't try and engage with the nuance of the position of trans people. But that's exactly how my org treats you. They don't think that your arguments are worth looking at because they cast you as a transphobe. I did otherwise, and I looked, I'm like, yeah, no, this guy's absolutely correct on all these things.
So
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry for cutting you off, Matt Walsh, but I like this guy. Because he made a point. He didn't just come up there and say some emotional, crap. He actually made a pretty valid point.
Worth looking at because they cast you as a transphobe. I did otherwise, and I looked, I'm like, yeah, no, this guy's absolutely correct on all these things.
So which conclusion are you? You said you disagree with my conclusions.
Well, it's the conclusion that of the model that you're postulating of gender, of that it's just this, you have man, woman, they're biologically contingent. My sort of question is, do you think that defaulting to simplicity, if this is the most dire issue of the age, which is something else that I agree with you on, do you really think that a method of simply recoursing to the most simplistic matter of approach is what we should be doing here?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I appreciate I appreciate everything that you said, and I appreciate your attitude. I very rarely encounter your attitude from that side of the ideological aisle. So I appreciate that. But yeah, I do think that making it simple is the right approach because, to my view, it is a very simple question. Now, if you want to get into the personal experiences of each individual and someone who's experiencing gender dysphoria, and what do we do to treat that problem? Sure, there's all kinds of personal, subjective nuances and things like that. If my child came to me and said that they were confused about their identity, I wouldn't just say, get out of my face. I would want to sit down and talk.
Yeah, I will admit this. Like, it's easy to cast something like this aside as just like, oh, it's just simply this, like just it's a simple answer. But like when this problem comes up in your life, it is not simple. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty sure it won't be simple. If you got a kid that's that's identifying as if you got a girl that's identifying as a boy or vice versa or something like that, you're going to find yourself in a pretty, you know what I'm saying, complicated situation trying to figure that out and deal with that, especially if you're against it. So, I mean, I think it's simple too. I think the answer is simple because, you know, I'm not, you know, trans or, you know, I'm not on that, in that group, but I don't know, you know.
Talk to them. And that's when you get into, that becomes a sort of an interpersonal exchange. And so you get into some of those personal nuances and everything, and that's fine. But the underlying fact, the underlying reality is simple, that there are only males and females in the human race. There are no other categories. There is no third sex. It doesn't exist. Even though we hear about intersex people, you know, an actual intersex person would be someone who has the reproductive capacities of both men and women, males and females. Such a person has never existed, ever. So what I see here is a binary system, and in that way, it's very simple, and I think that has to be our message. Yeah.
I mean, that's a good point. Has an intersex person ever existed? I mean, with the gender ideology thing, like, you know, waking up and saying that you feel like this and saying that you feel like that and being born in something and saying that you're this now, like, I mean, it's when you kind of put it into that context that we've never had anyone that it has been two things or that was one started off as one thing and it actually became something else. It really seems like it's something that's made up. You know what I mean? Like it's a reality in their world, but it's not a reality in the real world. And I feel like that's what Matt Walsh is saying. Like, simply put, there's males and there's females, and if you think you're anything else, that's you know, something going on with you and your soul, mind, body, spirit. But in reality, you know, it's just males and females.
I would still even say, respective to that even if from your standpoint, there's only this binary, there's two. There's complexities and nuances even within social navigation that still might be worth you looking into. I would also say that a lot of your facts also are off, respective to, for instance, the first sexual reassignment surgery actually happened in the 1920s. So that was before John Money. So it's not a case that
I didn't say his was the first.
What?
I didn't say his was the first. It was probably the first one done on a 2-year-old, but I said he was the one who invented. You started by saying you agree with everything that I said, and now we're going back and you disagree. I'm a little confused now.
My point is that if you have it to where you can get to a different conclusion from the same arguments, it means that there might be something deeper going on here that for people who are actually philosophers, not rhetoricians, need to be dealing with.
Okay, we got to move to the next question, but let me just ask you this so we can clarify where we are. Yeah. Do you agree that there are only males and females in the human race?
No.
Okay, so you definitely don't agree with my conclusion then at all.
No.
We actually are totally on opposite sides of this question, it turns out.
Oh, man, see, it started off so nice, man. It started off so nice until he went and made things complicated. This is why you don't make it complicated.
Okay, so what are the other categories if not male and female?
We're going to be here all night if I have to doing that.
We're not, because...
No, but he should have been able to come up with that. He should have been able to come up with an answer to that question as fast as he was able to object when Matt Walsh asked that question. He should be able to come up with an answer just as fast. I mean, let me even try to sit here and think for a second. Like, is there anything other than males and females in the human race? I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything. I can't. It's males and there's females, and it, you know, there's adult males and there's, you know, teenage males and there's baby males and females, but we only got two things, man. I can't think of anything else.
There's none that you can list, so it's actually a very short conversation.
All right. Well, you're wanting to say that you have these other social categories, right? It's a question of you're saying are, right? So the question here for me would be one of ontology.
Oh, snap. I could tell. I'm sorry if I'm yelling. I could tell this is about to get real. This is about to get real complicated.
Insofar as we're trying to posit that there is some kind of specificity, right? And you would look at something like intersex and say that this is like some kind of weird border case, right? But it's a question of the kind of continuum that would allow for one to...
Yep. See, I'm already lost. Like, you know, I'm not as smart as Matt Walsh, but I'm just saying, you know, you gotta keep these answers, like, you gotta get to the point. You know, you can't just be going on and on. You're gonna lose people.
To come into an embodiment that you would cast as male and female. I mean, something that's really interesting is you said that something like age is makes more sense to identify as. You at one point had female genitalia when you were in utero. So you've passed through that, right? And what happens to intersex people is that there's just some kind of like different, there's a different of development that occurs there. So respective to.
But my question to him before he even finishes this what he's on is, like, how many people are intersex? Like what percentage of our population, let's just say in America, are intersex people? You know, now that's not saying that we shouldn't care about them at all or research into what goes on with their bodies so we can help them out. But he talking about a very, 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 very small minority of people.
To us talking about these categories, it's not a case of there being this hard line thing. I mean, the reason why we also are not going to get anywhere here is because I actually would agree with you that something like woman is what would, in a technical sense, be called a floating signifier. So it doesn't have this like particular designatable meaning to it, right?
All right.
So that's why we're not going to go anywhere.
That's pretty clear. But I appreciate it. Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, he was nice. You know, he was cool.
I just want to make just two quick follow-ups on that. Is that one thing? I think that this is a tactic that you encounter on the left all the time when it comes to gender, which is to try to obscure it and make it sound complicated and to throw a lot of, you know, these sort of abstract ideas into it. And from what I've discovered, and this conversation didn't change my view at all on that, is that that's the only tactic they have, right? It's just.
Yeah, because, I mean, be honest, look at it. Like, that last question that he just asked, he went on for like 30 seconds asking a question, like explaining all of this stuff. It's like the more complicated you make something, the easier it is for people to, you know what I'm saying, stray onto different paths of it and just kind of go down these rabbit holes. And, you know, it's more complicated. So it's easier to get lost in a complicated puzzle than a simple puzzle. So Matt Walsh's solution, or not solution, but Matt Walsh's conclusion is that it's simple. It's men and there's women. That's easy to follow. You know what I'm saying? And like that is a general rule to go by. That's definitely a general rule. Anything over 50% makes it general. You know what I'm saying? So I understand what Matt Walsh is saying.
Just try to make it seem complicated, but yet while also not offering any alternative answers at all. And the final thing on intersex, because maybe someone else will bring this up, just so we could get that question out of the way, because it always comes up. Number one, intersex, that category has nothing to do with trans, right? You know, trans man or trans woman is a biological male who identifies as a female. So even if I were to agree that intersex people are some sort of exception, that would do nothing to vindicate the trans man, because that's a different category. But as it turns out, intersex people are not an exception. These are people who suffer.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but I think there are people out here who are calling themselves intersex who aren't intersex. I got a hunch. Like they weren't really born like that, but they calling themselves that. If y'all have heard of that happening anywhere, let me know, because I just got a feeling. Something just tells me.
Suffer from a deformity, from a condition. Just like someone might be born with one arm rather than two. That does not negate or undermine the fact that human beings have two arms. But if someone is born with only one, then you know that something went wrong along the way. They ought to have had two, but they didn't because something went wrong. So a deformity or a sickness doesn't undermine the principle that we're dealing with.
Yeah, that kind of goes along the lines of the what do they say? The exception don't make the rule. It's a deformity. It doesn't usually happen, but it's an outlier. It does happen. But you guys, that was the reaction. That was nice. It was nice to see a trans person actually at least agree with something, you know, that could at least hold his own side of the aisle accountable for, you know, doing too much. But that's all for today, you guys. I'm out of here. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Peace.